down, but a lot of it had also to do with Tempest just screwing their engagements up.
All right, we're going to go to game number 4. Ballistix once again choosing where they're going to take us to. It is the Dragon Shire, and it's an interesting one because I really feel like Tempest is going to have to use all their A game. They're going to be here. If they lose one more game, they're going to be kicked off this tournament. The #1 seed of Korea. Many people, some of our experts included, said they would actually take the entire trophy, and here they are. Only one win, or one loss away, I should say, from dropping out.
And I'm a little worried for Tempest, honestly. Ballistix right now seems to be outplaying them on all fronts. Top lane, middle lane, support versus support, warrior versus warrior. And it's one of those battlegrounds where you have to pull your weight when it comes to your lineup and the rotations. And if Tempest is off just a little bit, Ballistix is going to run forward with them on this battleground.
And this time we couldn't even say like there was a wonky element with a Jaina in that draft. This last draft that they had, as you said, Calder, is one of those drafts we saw at the Western Clash succeed so many times. This was a decent draft. Still, they got demolished.
Yeah, Tempest just needs to get their act together.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but like at this point, they make so many mistakes that get exploited ruthlessly. If you are up against a bad team, you can get away with this, but Ballistix is identifying every mistake that Tempest makes and immediately shuts it down and punishes them for it. So right now, the tools are there. Tempest just needs to take a deep breath and focus on their own play, because they are good enough. I mean, we've seen them perform incredibly well, so they can do it. They just have to focus on this, because there were so many small misplays, and you can't afford to do that against a team like Ballistix.
Third time's the charm here for Dami on that Genji. It seems to be his go-to weapon once again. Ballistix, where are they going to respond with here? Uther looked super solid in the hands of Magi there once again. We can really say that Magi has probably been one of the strongest, if not the strongest Uthers. The way he manages the cooldowns, the way he toys with their opponents as well. Didn't even have to use it once on ETC. Hooligan and Magi, like those two seem to work together so well.
Well, he's definitely been strong. Something that I'm sitting here considering and thinking about for Tempest is if we get that Dahaka once again for Ballistix. Well, Zhonghua isn't as flashy as someone like Wubby, for instance, and landing those perfect tongues and forcing those fights, right? He's still a very strong Dahaka that he has experience on. I want to see a little bit more pressure on that top lane, and with them having Genji this time, they should be able to try and grab those ganks and at least keep him at bay, because he is sitting in the back, soaking all day.
I love Zhonghua on Dahaka. I still remember when they went up last year against KSV Black, and he single-handedly shut down Rich Illidan. It was absolutely amazing to watch it. Rich Illidan, the most feared at the time, and then Zhonghua came in with Dahaka and just absolutely bodied Rich every single fight. Came in with the perfect drags, the perfect isolations. So Zhonghua is doing absolutely a great job there. Not sure if his is the linchpin, but I absolutely agree that his global play and his Dahaka have a huge impact in the way that Ballistix is currently shaping these fights.
He's the only Dahaka player in the tournament up to this point. We didn't really have any team rely on the Zerg as much as Ballistix did, and when they have a formidable player like Zhonghua who's able to turn the tide single-handedly, why not fall back on it? Why not pick something that the enemy team doesn't feel comfortable playing against?
I mean, we had a fair share of Dahaka, but from other teams as well, but he's definitely the most successful. Yeah. Blossom played it a bit and didn't look too shabby with it either. We saw it from the Chinese, but when it comes to that high-level play and the consistent performance, then he definitely takes the cake here.
Malf and ETC coming out here for Tempest.
I actually like that adjustment a lot. I think this is a really cool reaction, because they identified that ETC has been having a huge, very disruptive, and also having a very huge impact on the last 2 games, that Hooligan excelled on it, and they already prefer Malfurion. And with ETC, you have the lockdown, power slide into roots. Now, we oftentimes talk about the combo of ETC and Uther, but ETC and Malfurion is also insanely deadly because of the amount of CC that you have. So I like it as an adjustment. You don't ban ETC, you pick it away.
I am curious to see what warrior comes out for Hooligan now. Will we go back to that old Nubrak that we haven't seen in forever, one that he's been pretty aggressive on? Or maybe we'll get him on that Garrosh. Gonna have the Malthael banned out here for Ballistix, and that's kind of making me lean a little bit more towards that Garrosh possibility.
Yeah, it's also what they did on the last map, so they really feel they need to ban out Malthael against Tempest.
Still a couple of tools available here for Tempest to ban. Now, To be honest, though, if I take a look at the last 2 games, I don't even know what to be afraid of. Probably a Blaze, perhaps, if you want to go for a Tyrael ban as well. You know, those 2 warriors could actually be picked in synchrony there, establishing once again a strong protective front line for heroes like Hanzo. So maybe one of those 2 would be a nice opportunity.
Dehaka wouldn't be a bad ban either.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you totally get rid of that.
You talked about it earlier. For the reasons you mentioned, I think Dehaka's or Zhongha's Dehaka would be a good ban. For me, this is one of those things where the draft, on the other hand, is not something that worries me too much about Tempest, because they walked away with solid drafts in most of the games. Even when you look at the Jaina draft earlier, Jaina came in as a last pick, so they could have substituted that by anything they wanted. For me, it's just a question, how do they present themselves with the tools they have in the game? Because on the last 2 maps, it was the main issue that their play was just off. Their communication was off, and they had individual mistakes that gave openings to the opponent. So that's what concerns me more. What I really want to see, can they shake that?
Especially when we're used to them being in spots where they might not be winning team fights, but they're hanging in there macro-wise in terms of experience, and eventually getting that big win towards the end. But when you're 3 to 4 levels behind, it is incredibly hard to have that comeback fight.
Now, with the setup that we're seeing here, another hero that we have not seen yet in this draft that I want to highlight quickly is also Tyrael. So Tyrael has not been chosen yet. We talked
Diablo.
about it. We talked about the other 2.
I would like it, though. No tank shredding at all available. It's a good map for Diablo 2. Long, short distance in between the lanes. Lots of rotation interruptions here.
I mean, I feel before we're going to see Diablo, we're going to see something along the lines of Dehaka, Blaze, Tyrael, Dehaka coming in, Muradin even together with him. But now the question, what is going to be played by Tempest? Are they going to go into Blaze, for example? I could have seen that as one of the reasons why they don't ban Dehaka out, because they were a bit afraid that that leads Ballistix to claim Blaze, and then they are struggling for a good top laner against him.
Yeah, up to this point, there's no real top lane opponent yet for the Dehaka. Of course, we can now see that Tempest knows exactly what they're getting themselves into, so we could maybe see... Illidan is just not really getting picked here, I think.
I feel it has to be Blaze, and if you don't go Blaze, then you can maybe pick Tyrael and say, okay, we're going to set ETC with the stage dive later on onto the top lane and make sure that he plays against Dehaka.
Leoric
He can play that lane. You can play Leoric too, that's true.
No, no, World, I could maybe see a Sonya as well, mostly to help out with mercenary camps, because you look for Ballistix right now, it's mostly that Hanzo that brings in the mercenary camp pressure, but Ballistix can fix that with their 5th pickup. Tempest right now, thinking about it, it's going to be that Blaze, and the Falstad will come out. Lockdown and his Falstad.
Yeah, and Falstad, of course, we know exactly how strong he can be. Dragonshire, for the longest time, used to be such a staple for Falstad. And by the same token, they also counter the potential global pressure that Zhongha on that Dehaka does so well. So I like that Tempest is trying to even the odds in terms of weapons and what they have in their arsenal.
Yeah, especially going to late game.
Yeah.
That global is instrumental on Dragonshire, being able to out-rotate each other on those shrines to try to find that one small mistake on your opponent and then seize the day. Final pickup, though, coming in for Ballistix should be a little bit more damage. What are we going to get from them?
What we're going to see here from SDE, his Tychus has been banned away, and SCSC most definitely going to play that Hanzo. Not really much left here for the Korean team.
It's the one thing that stood out so far is that Korean teams currently really don't prioritize mages.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I want Chromie or Cassia, right? Like, those are the 2. Or
Even a Gul'dan, even a Gul'dan. I would like it here.
It's great, man.
Great, man, after all. All right. So
they hate mages, like just in general.
Really
they absolutely hate
Chromie
mages.
would destroy here. Would absolutely body that body lane like no other. You can be in that nice little 2v1. Hanzo can rotate around, clear off the mercenary camps, no problem.
Li Ming even.
Li Ming would be fine too.
You make sure that ETC, if he goes into, I mean, he has both options in this game. He can go stage dive and go add another global. But if he goes into mosh pit, you have an interrupt against the mosh pit. You have a one-shot combo more or less against Falstad if you ever get the drop on him. So they could have gone for that too, but they hate mage plays.
The thing is, that one time they tried to actually unleash a mage, the Jaina failed miserably. So they're like, all right, we're going to back to the guns we know that work in Korea.
The only mage they play is Thrall.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Thrall is pretty much playing as a mage.
By now, he's a poke mage all through and through.
Yeah, similar style to Ragnaros. I'd consider Ragnaros a mage. Drop it in those queues. Melee mage. Go with that.
Don't start.
No,
Don't start.
no. The moment I hear Tim say Ragnar's, everything in my head goes like, no, we're not going to follow him on this track.
Don't go down that path.
Yeah, I agree. I hate winning too. Let's go into game number 4 here. Ballistix on the cusp of maybe getting a 3-1. Yeah, exactly.
All makes sense now.
5, 4,
Oh,
3,
can Tempest come back, Haldor?
I hope so. I really want to have a 5th game. I think the series deserves it, and I also think that the last 2 games... Tempest doesn't deserve to go out like this. I'm okay with Ballistic winning the series, but I really feel the last 2 games was a bit of a sad performance by Tempest. And I know they can do better, and I want them to do better. I want a 5th game out of this, so I hope that they are now showing us at least what they're made of. And they can show... They already shown us that to an extent, because guess what? We're 30 seconds in, and no one has died yet.
And this is a spot that I actually kind of like the Falstad coming into the mix. Remember that Seasoned Marksman and Giant Killer at level 13, always deadly against a Murden, and they're going to need a Tank Killer later on. The Tychus being banned out, and Malfield being banned out as well. The typical ones that you go into were not available. So Tempest respawn back with one of Lockdown's strongest heroes, which is that Falstad. And speaking of engages, Hooligan taking some damage at Jeff Propulsion in, and Tempest will answer back in game 4 with the first kill, and looking for a second.
All right, boys, we got a game. So Muradin goes down, and Tempest shows that they are not completely transitioning into being a pushover team here. They are answering back with a bit of aggression, and they get the first blood in the game. So that's what I wanted to see here. At least it's going to be a fight.
And the fight heads straight towards the Giants. They'll get those pushing in towards the south side. Lockdown staying in this rotation here, working on those marksman stacks.
I mean, as I said before, for me, Tempest, a lot of what Tempest did so far was not necessarily a problem with that draft. It was a problem with how they played in the game itself. And now, at least in the early game, they play a bit more concentrated, a little bit more to the point where they are saying, okay, let's just not YOLO this completely and play this safe and concentrate on what we do and communicate properly. That's what led to the first kill for them, and now I think we're going to see an even game between the two.
And this is what I want to see in the last game. A little bit more pressure on that top lane against the Dahaka. Genji's primed and ready to move in for a fight if they need him to. But Tempest is actually just using this as a way to move in for those night camps, as both teams are doing so.
Yeah, also we have, by the way, Stormbolt build for Muradin, taking it on the 1, so no 3rd win for him. No shenanigans here. He's completely relying on Uther for the heals, not one of these Muradins that just moves out of the fight, heals up and re-engages. So a little bit more for the immediate burst. But as you said before, in the late... Okay, the Hooligan a little bit optimistic with that Stormbolt. Lockdown, expecting Lockdown to move forward. But Lockdown is going to be in the late game Hooligan's biggest nightmare on Muradin, because once Seasoned Marksman and Giant Killer come into play together, it's going to be rough going for the high hit point hero at the front line.
Yeah, you definitely start to get chunked when that falls out lands at 13. And we're still A levels away for that to happen, so for now, Hooligan will be aggressive. In fact, he's even scouting to this right side, seeing if anyone's rotating down towards the Lockdown to help him out with the defense. But him going for that small scout also gave enough information over to Ballistix to know that they could move into the night camp, knowing nothing was rotating down towards that area, and they'll easily take it.
Yeah, Lockdown also with a face check on the bush here. That nearly turned into a dead bird, because one step forward and Uther would have been ready for the stun. But yeah, that was just a second too early. So the camp is going to put the pressure onto the bot lane, and Falstad is going to deal with it, but of course he alone will not be able to pull that off, so we have the rotation of Blaze to the bot lane. In the meantime, the top has done some severe damage, but both of the teams just playing this a bit closer to the...
Less hypey than we had in the last couple of matches, that's for sure. And that's kind of part of the battleground, right? It kind of slows you down a little bit in terms of rotations. Unless you land those perfect storm bolts, Ballistix shouldn't be getting too many kills, but Tempest the same shouldn't be either unless they land that power slide into a hide route. SDE is actually trying really hard to get this dragon. Sinus delayed a few times, but here comes Hooligan. He misses the storm bolt though, so Sinus is able to power slide away.
Very good route here, and Blaze in the meantime takes the bottom, and that should be in time. He was walking past the camp. For the longest time, Blaze was actually defending, not willing to go straight for the shrine, but then they realized that with this many heroes in the mid lane, Ballistix couldn't have had anybody at the bot lane. So then he walked past it and took it. But now we have the same situation unfolding again, where the pressure is on Tempest, especially since up to the top lane, the Hawk is actually starting to do very, very well here against Falstad. So it's a bit of an unfair battle, but Blaze has now taken the bottom again. So Tempest under pressure, but so far they're doing well, and actually this is a really nice setup that they have here.
Yeah, they get a root on Maggie. He gets low, but here comes Jungle on the side. Can he land the tongue? He goes for it, sadly misses out for it. SDE trading a little bit. Will Dami coming around from the side. They're going to focus him down, and Greymane taken out. Tempest 2 kills to 0, and possibly a dragon.
Yeah, Hanzo down, and so is Greymane, and that's fantastic for them. Now down to the bot lane, we've seen Jongha join the fun, because Good actually got a solo kill there against Hanzo. That was what started all of this off. And then Jongha was the one to use his global, move to the bot lane, and make sure that the Shrine doesn't stay in the control of Tempest, because that would have been an immediate Dragonite. So they can deny the Dragonite for now, but it comes at a price. They fall a level behind, and they have to use the global on their Haka to just deter Blaze from keeping control of the bot lane.
That's certainly the issue here. With 9 about to hit, Tempest a full level away from hitting 10. They're setting up a gank for Hooligan on the top. Hooligan taking the brunt of the damage already. Goes for a Stormbolt to try and hit ETC so he can jump out, but he misses it. The knockback a little bit too much. Another kill for Tempest, 4-0, and they have found their stride.
Funny thing here is that Magi, I mean, we have perfect vision, so we see everything. Magi could have taken the Dragonite here. He didn't know that, obviously. He didn't have full vision on the entire enemy team. And if he walks up onto the Dragonite statue and someone is hiding, he would be dead. But in this case, yeah, that could have even been a decay if they were that aggressive. Lockdown is actually about to fall here. Barely getting out. The question is SC going to be able to take him down? Not quite. Lockdown survives, also thanks to Hyde on Malfurion here again. But Tempest is about to hit 10.
Now they are very, very close. One more wave will do that. That wave will be here in the bottom lane soon for Blaze to clear it up. And now Ballistix in a spot where they need to buy some time. With the Dragon right around the corner, they're going to grab their Night Camp just in case they can't buy that time. They have Muradin floating around in the middle, looking for anyone that might be coming in for rotation. And he thinks about possibly grabbing that Shrine, especially with Falset and Genji showing at the top.
And I have also to highlight ETC again. He had such a huge impact on every single kill that we've seen in this game, and he was very impactful on Infernal Shrines and on Sky Temple. The Cow hasn't seen a lot of love throughout the Eastern Clash, but right now he is one of the most impactful heroes in this lower bracket final.
Yeah. He's been ground beef lately, sitting on the ground, not really being in the matches too much, and with him being in this, we're getting premium brief from the ETC. Tempest grabs the Dragon, sign control in the space here as well, and they'll start shelling away on the middle lane.
Yeah, Tempest with a very nice showing so far, and the Dragonite is just going to accent that even more. They have the lead in the experience. Good punt coming out, but the Cow is in trouble and goes down. Good pickup by Ballistix here, and they get the drag against Good as well. Blaze is about to fall, and that is Ballistix doing a fantastic job, as Tempest was just able to grab the Dragonite, and they nearly make the DK useless.
Yeah, heads up play there by Ballistix, getting the isolation on ETC so he couldn't power slide away as quickly. The follow-up drag from Jongwoo was just enough, and 2 kills. Helpful enough, and that one turret is all this Dragon has gotten, as you mentioned. This Dragon has definitely been cleaned up.
Yeah, it was a very good job by Ballistix. Not only killing ETC, but then following up with the second one against Blaze. That really helped them here. Now, the DK still got a bit of value, and they have the experience lead, but this was Ballistix preventing the worst, because that could have initiated a snowball against them if they take down enough structures, Tempest that is, to get closer to level 13 and run with a continuous talent advantage in the game. This could have been a very difficult game for Ballistix to come back into. So Ballistix doing everything right here, finding the kill, not only focusing on defense and keeping themselves in this fourth game.
Now, for me, it's all about this global play. How does Falset and Dahaka pay off for each of their teams, right? The Mighty Gust being available allows for Tempest to get the disengages they want, but soaking is very important. And remember, we talked about it at level 1, but in half a level, that 13 comes online finally. And that should be enough to make Muradin start backing up from these engages that he's been going for.
And this is going to become a bit of a problem with the cooldown management that we talk about with Uther. And Magi has done a fantastic job on Uther, but it's going to make his life a bit more difficult. And oftentimes, for that very reason, we see third wind or block coming in on Muradin, but this is not the case here. In true Eastern fashion, we have instead the focus on the stacks on level 1 for the extra damage on Muradin's Stormbolt, and that could come back to haunt him in the late game if he can't sustain himself against Falstad. Which always, of course, assumes that Falstad gets into position where he can freely dish out the damage in the first place.
Yeah, he has to watch out for Hanzo arrow slinging at him, having some damage from Greymane as well, because Greymane go for the throat and get the kill.
Even the Haka coming in with a flank from the side, so...
Yeah. Well, Hooligan gets 13 for his team, soaking this middle lane, and Ballistix are at even footing, and it comes at a great time, with the Shrine activating in about 20 seconds. Tempest and crew will be looking to grab that shrine pretty quickly. Falset already in the top lane to grab the shrine in about 15 seconds.
Ballistix is keeping all of this close, though. They have their 13 talent, and this is really the big difference here now, that with those 2 earlier kills, once the first objective was claimed by Tempest, they were able to keep the experience rather close, and now are never ending up in this big disadvantageous situation where they don't have the extra talent. So 13 versus 13, even footing for the 2 teams. And as you said, it's all about the shrine and the objective control now. That's where Falstad has already pushed out the top lane and can now claim the top 4 stage.
This is so tight. This is what I was expecting to have in every single game going forward, all the way to game number 5. This is what I expected from Ballistix and Tempest. And Tempest finally, it took them a couple games, but they are delivering, continuing to keep this lead for now. But Greymane and crew are in position to help force a fight, but with Blaze and ETC heading the charge, Tempest dissuades them from defending that bottom lane.
And now up to the top lane, Zhongha is starting to push lockdown back slowly. But we still have a fairly even battle up at the top. And now that we have control taken over of the bot lane from Tempest as well, they can start that rotation to the top. And especially with the fast mobility that we have on Genji, Ballistix really need to keep tabs on it where he shows up on lane. And he's been in the middle. They're starting to put some pressure onto Hooligan now too. But up at the top, Falstad has now reclaimed the shrines. Ballistix had to move back a little bit.
I'm going to be a little careful here, man. Stormbolt into a Dragon's Arrow could be the end of his life. We've seen it multiple times this tournament. Ballistix starts their Night Cam to get that pushing in the top lane. Both teams fighting for that small edge they can get on Dragonshire, and that's typically one of the reasons why we enjoy watching it so much.
Yeah, I still feel that for Falstad in particular, it's really working well the longer this game goes, just because the auto attack damage. It usually doesn't end up in a situation where you say, okay, he alone has such an impact that the front line can't do anything. But once the quest is completed, you will at least be able to have an immediate impact on any of these situations. And with the lockdown potential that we have through a power slide into a root, Falstad is usually able to get some free damage in no matter what. And that's what really scares me later on for those heroes. But I love the way that Ballistix is setting up these pushes around the camps, and also healing in this case, the mage to keep the aura alive. That works, of course, as well. And it puts serious pressure onto the fort.
Yeah, it does. Puts it down to half health to get a little bit of experience, too. They're a little bit behind that 16, but should be able to manage it. Murden was able to grab that bottom shrine delay long enough. And with Boston not having an idea of where Hanzo is, he has to play safe and clear up that night camp in the top right corner, which should buy Ballistix enough time to get that 16.
And it's a continuous dance. We have Murden now at the bot lane against Genji, but both of the teams are just claiming and reclaiming shrines, trying to threaten the Dragon Knight. Ballistix claims 16 just after Tempest has reached the extra talent. And that, of course, gives us some fantastic tools for the blue team here, with Benediction coming into play, with also Stone Form that allows Muradin to have that sustain as the beefy frontliner he wants to be.
Ballistix seems to be tired of this dance. They are grabbing Night Cams, grabbing Giant Cams whenever they get the chance, and trying to edge out a little bit of damage on these forts. They did so pretty well on that top side, got it down to half health, but they're looking to do it again here towards the south. With a Giant and Night Camp push, Tempest will have to bring their resources down and defend.
And Falstad has actually just taken the top fort, so he uses this one-on-one setup. Oh my god, Malfurion goes down, not entering the bunker here.
Impressive engage there. Lockout comes in with a Mighty Gust, knocking Ballistix into the fight. Dami brings out the Dragon Blade, and he'll focus down on Maggie, trying to get rid of that Uther. But Uther, with the Divine Shield, turns around and gets a stun, and Falstad regrets his decision to fly in from behind. He gets picked off. That's 2 down. Dami will sidestep the Dragon's Arrow, but the fight is done. 2 are taken away, and a 4. Ballistix has all 5.
Yeah, first of all, it was a great sidestep by Dami. That Dragon's Arrow was on point and could have taken him down for sure. But the gust that we saw, I mean, the idea is, of course, always to force the engage here. The problem is, bunker is down already, and you've just lost Malfurion without him using a silence.
And there's a Night Camp.
And there's a Night Camp pushing, so I'm not quite sure if that was really the right call here for Falstad. If it was a 5 versus 5 and you can gust them into a Twilight Dream and maybe a Mosh Pit, then I can see some value, but that was a very, let's call it an optimistic decision.
Well, the optimistic decision is going to allow Ballistix to grab the Dragon. They open up the middle lane. They're going to start grabbing an Legion experience here for the first time in this game against Tempest, and they'll have a play available to start moving into a Night Camp. Now, here's one of the main issues, though, with Mighty Gust being up and available once again. Ballistix has to be careful, because there's always a play that we see pretty often from Tempest in the normal league play, the fly behind you to the Mighty Gust to get a pick.
Yeah, definitely, and that's kind of what they tried to do in that last engage, but it was already a bit late. Hyde in this case, forced to use Ice Block as well, so another cooldown burn, needs to be careful there. We have seen the top lane now. quest completion for Muradin. That's going to help with the CC. And again, the aggression from Ballistix as they're starting to move in. Their Stormbolt hits and they're going straight for Blaze. And he's about to fall. Barely moves out. Dragon Knight does not have the cooldown ready to commit the last few shots here with the Dragon's Breath. But they are able to hold for now. Tempest loses some infrastructure, but it's not too much, and they are still pretty much on track when it comes to experience.
Exactly. Tempest is able to defend. They were low, but they were able to defend, and that is a good mark for them. Hide and Crew will start the Night Camp as well, but Hooligan is threatening to go in for an engage. See if they actually go in for it. Hooligan steps up, goes in for the Stormbolt. Mighty goes to push him away, but Hooligan pops the Avatar. He's fine holding this base. He drops down the hammers as well, and good. Even using the Pyromania, trying to stay alive, but drag comes in from Jongwa, and SDE will get the kill.
Yeah, they get the kill, and again, the problem that we, in this case, did not have Malfurion with his ult. He just was on cooldown, and never even an attempt to go for the mosh pit. So in that situation, that started to become awkward pretty fast. I could have even seen him just drop the mosh pit and try to zone them a bit and lock Muradin down before he can pop Avatar here.
Hooligan just having a really good tournament there, completely controlling the space there, dropping the Avatar, buying enough time for his team to move back and help secure the kill.
Now that's False with his quest completed, so that gives him the auto attack speed when he wants it. But I really want to see a bit more, at least attempts of play with around the mosh pit here from ETC. We haven't really seen that coming into play too much. Maybe he has an opportunity right now to show it. The camp has been taken, slides away. Okay, there's a lot of damage, and here comes immediately Genji trying to go for the Dragon Blade. He gets the first kill against the Haka, and Muradin is also low, but Genji gets blown to pieces. The problem is that Magi is still in a spot where he could fall, but he's able to move away just in the nick of time.
Can't believe they got that kill. Uther was able to turn around and get the stun. Hanzo followed up into a scatter arrow that was pixel perfect, landing the damage on Genji and making it 1-for-1. Hooligan, after tapping, comes back in and looks for Lockdown, gets a Stormbolt, and Lockdown is destroyed. Hooligan can give chase here too and slow down targets, and he'll have a Stormbolt soon. Does he land it? He doesn't miss it because Hyde actually drops down the ice block.
Yeah, and now they're just moving away here, and to be honest, someone has to finally tell Sign that he has an ultimate. We're 17 minutes into the game and he hasn't dropped a single mosh pit, and he had a couple of options to really try and at least get it through. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get it. There are interrupts on the other side. But first of all, you can bait a cooldown out, and sometimes you want to hold back the mosh pit so that your opponent doesn't use all the CC that they have available. But we've seen Ballistix not hesitating, dropping Stormbolts, Isolations, Dragon's Arrow, every single thing that they have that could interrupt the mosh pit, they are willing to commit to. And Sign has not really shown that once. So I really want him to play a bit more with the cooldown and at least attempt to get something done.
Well, here's the issue. He might not have a chance to pull up that mosh pit. With a Dragon Knight pushing in on the bottom lane, if he doesn't use it before the end of this game, he is going to be out. This tournament will be done for Tempest. Ballistix starting to group up on the bottom side. A Stormbolt will connect on Malfurion. He kites away into a root. Hooligan also popping the Avatar. Here's Falstad. That big wind tunnel coming out. Ballistix is forced to fight.
Pushed in between two keeps, and Hanzo is dead. This is the moment where Tempest can turn all of this around. They take one down, 2, 3, Greymane dead. So is Uther. He still has the redemption, but they are doing work here. The keep is down, and the Dragon Knight starts to focus on the core. There is no way this is going to be successful, and the Haka needs to be careful. He should walk away from this because he's about to fall if he doesn't pay attention here.
Muradin trying to get a kill there on Lockdown, but he's able to survive. Dahaka is going to drop down the tunnel and just buy enough time for his team to come back. Hans will be here in 30 seconds. The keep at least goes down, but Tempest, they hold, and they get a fight they want.
Yeah, but him committing to the core was a bit odd.
It felt like he was just trying to separate Tempest. They had already lost that fight at that point. So he put the Dragon on top of the core to peel a fuel resources over, and they tried to have the Uther and the Muradin focused on Falsa, but Falsa played a little bit too well.
But it's a stagger death still, and that allows now Tempest to have, first of all, Blaze in the mid lane, clearing the waves out, preparing to push the mid forward, and an easy commitment at the bottom as well. We have 9 kills against 7 in Tempest's favor, and Falsa, through all of this, is still stacking damage on his level 1, which makes it much easier for him to threaten this front line.
We got a game on our hands.
Yeah, we definitely do now, and I like it. I mean, there's a couple. The wind tunnel also had a pretty massive effect here. So Lockdown with these fly-ins has once or twice put himself into a bit of an awkward position, but this last one was absolutely spot on. pushing Ballistix between two keeps made it insanely difficult for them to move, and of course it added also additional damage and slows onto the opponent's team.
We want Hanzo to get focused down. He died immediately after that wind tunnel, and now Ballistix will have to be aware of that as we head towards this late game. 19 minutes on Dragonshire, only one keep being down, but Ballistix still in the lead. They had a great early game and a good mid game, so they're able to continue to hold on here, having those 3 keeps for defense. Zhanghua goes back to clearing out the top lane, working on Essence, and with a shrine or 2 activating in about 20 seconds, our teams will do the dance all over again.
And Lockdown has pretty solid damage here. 50 stacks on Seasoned Marksman is helping him to just pressure the front line, and we could see how his damage numbers are actually rising quite significantly. He's nearly finding himself on the same amount of damage output that we see for Hanzo on Ballistix side. So this all comes down to a good engagement here. If a Mosh Pit hits, if a good Twilight Dream comes into play, maybe Lockdown again finds that angle for the fly behind the opponent and then the wind tunnel, that would make all the difference here. And of course, as the game now continues, our 2 globals are more and more impactful. Dehaka and Falset, those are the 2 that have to control the flow of the game and the map.
Yeah, missing out on the epic mount, which is a little, makes it a little bit harder to pull off that double global, but the wind tunnel definitely scary enough. Dehaka in the bottom lane, as you mentioned, doesn't have the burrow available. Doesn't even matter. He gets moshed by Sign.
Yeah.
Feels like Sign got your memo.
I mean, that was perfect. I like that. Take him down. Yes, you drop a cooldown. Who cares? Just make him pay here. You can argue that you could have maybe held Mosh Pit here as they went for him, but better safe than sorry, and now they are gaining some momentum. And that makes it very difficult for Ballistix now, because we're 21 minutes into the game, meaning the Dragon Knight is just brutal. But Ballistix just lost their global, so how do they play this now? They can't really engage because there's too much to lock them down, and this is going to be a decay, and Ballistix just accepts it. They're saying, okay, you're going to get the Dragon Knight, we still believe that we can defend, that you cannot core here. And now they have to muster that defense and try to turn it around. But for Tempest, the minimum to achieve here is a keep. That's the minimum.
And they can secure it too. With Bunker, they can be a little bit aggressive. They also have Bolt for ETC to be able to force a fight if Ballistix ever grooves up. And don't forget about that Wind Tunnel. Wind Tunnel can also secure Tempest this keep or even a team fight. Stormbolt comes out, landing on Sign. They're going to try their best to slow this down as much as they can, buying time for SCSC to work in those scatter arrows and try and delete this dragon as soon as possible. But again, it's 21 minutes. This thing is pretty robust.
They're waiting for the wave, so they need the minions to come in to soak a few of the shots. Dehaka is already back, so they're just playing it slow, and I think that's absolutely the correct decision to make here. A lot of poke happening. And of course the Breath of Fire coming out here of the Dragon Knight, but the minion wave is moving in now, and they want the keep at least. If they can get a kill, that would be it. So they have to be careful, because Ballistix is going to look for a counter-engage. And if they can get the drop on the bird, for example, that would be the worst thing ever. Good damage against Hooligan, and the Dragon Knight is still alive. And again, this guy hits like a truck.
Tempest thinking about maybe go for a core, but Hooligan jumps in that back line, as you were mentioning. The Wind Tunnel will knock back the damage, as well as Zhanghua, so Hooligan is by himself. He has to put time to try and stay alive. He's able to rewind and jump away, but he gets to lead it. Dami going for a little bit more damage as well, and now the Dragon Knight and the rest of Tempest go for the core.
Really well executed by Tempest here. As Hooligan goes in, they isolate him and then take him down, and know they want the game. They want to go for the core here. They push Dehaka back, and the core is already starting to fall. Yes, still the Dragon Knight is down, but we have Bunker available, and it's a 5 versus 4. They're starting to move in. The Divine Shield is on him. Here comes the Twilight Dream and the kill. Dehaka is down. A 5 versus 3 as Tempest smells blood in the water and tries to go for the core to turn this into a 5-mapper. The fight still raging on here, but Ballistix is losing more and more ground.
SC trying to do his best here. Hides low on health, so is Falstad down to 30%, down to 20. Dami gets taken up. SDE on the right side looking for more targets, but Tempest, they have it. They get the kill on the core, and we're going to a game number 5.
Really well done by Tempest here, especially when we look at that last fight again. That was actually incredibly well executed. The first thing that happens here is as Muradin moves in, there's